Perfect. Hey guys, so glad that everyone was able to join us today. This is going to be a great value of your time as we are either a job seeker or currently enroll, and we're looking to really understand how important the power of our personal brand and professional branding are, especially in today's very competitive job market. So today, my guest and co-host of today's webinar is Eileen Nebhut. Eileen is the founder and CEO of Venus Rising. Eileen is an executive coach, an executive style coach, and she is working alongside individuals as well as corporations and really trying to understand the importance and value of a personal brand within the professional workforce and then also outside of work. So I am going to um and guys, I've got all of you off. I think I've got most of you off mute. You can mute yourselves, but if you want to ask a question, you can put it in chat and then we'll leave time too for an open discussion at the end as well. So with that, oh, hold on. I am going to make Eileen our host and it is all yours.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, Give me just a minute to share screen and then we will set off. Okay. Can someone nod if they see the screen?
Yep.
Fantastic. So great to have all of you here today. Lori and I have been really excited about this. A couple of things up front is I cannot see all of you while I'm presenting. So if you have a question or a comment, please put it in the chat or unmute yourself. This is not a precious presentation. You're welcome to jump in, but just know that I can't see you. And with that, I will get started, except to say, again, great to see some familiar faces in the crowd. So this is really great. Lori and I are excited to present this content to you because her audience and my audiences overlap. And part of developing strategic brands is it's really important, like Lori said, for those considering a transition and those currently seeking new positions. So very excited to be here. I'll give you a little personal story about me to start us off and why I got so interested in this topic and starting my company. So I was in my 20s living in New York, and I walked to work, and my office was down by 42nd and Grand Central Station, and I was working for a private publishing house, and the owner's son of the publishing house was at the elevator bank with me with a friend of his. The elevator came, we got on the elevator started, and it made this wrenching noise and it jerked and it was terrifying. And it was just the three of us in the elevator. And we kind of got nervous and we looked at each other and we were too proud. You know, you're in your 20s, you're too proud to really say how scared you are. Anyway, at one point, the owner's son turned to his friend and said, "Don't worry, if anything happens, we've got her to protect us." So the backstory is, which you won't know, most of you, is I'm tall. I'm 6'2", and that is very tall for a woman. I see someone clapping. And frankly, it's very tall for a man or a woman. And that comment from him really shook me. They were obviously shorter than I am, but it was taking away some of my femininity and assigning a kind of masculinity to me, which was daunting and not fun. And it got me thinking about, well, it got me questioning how I could take control of my image and reshape how others perceived me. And this experience was a catalyst for me when it comes to thinking about branding, and especially personal branding, and how style intersects with identity and values. So all of this talk about branding and style and work leads us to a topic of executive presence. And if you are not familiar with this book, some of you probably are, but this is something that you want to buy. I think it is 150 pages and it's the quickest, easiest read, and it's so good for this for many reasons. In the introduction to the second edition of the book, the author talks about business stress. So just to give you context, the first edition came out in 2014. The second edition came out in 2020. And Paul Aldo says that nothing has changed. I'm admitting people while I'm talking. He says nothing has changed so dramatically since the first edition was published than the rules for grooming and dress. From casual Fridays in the 1990s, the trend has been moving towards self-expression and informality. Suits and ties for men have moved to sports shirts, hose and pumps for women, a little bit of tennis shoes, and casual layering pieces. So to be clear, there's still rules for grooming and dress, but they're now found much more within organizations rather than as general codes. To quote Aldo, executive presence is a persona that we project to others through our behavior. It is the outcome of how we act, the way we stand and move, our body image, what we say and how we say it, and the way others interpret and respond to our actions. So the more executive presence we'd like others to observe in us, the more we must behave in a way that projects an executive persona. So this was really transformational for me because it's breaking down executive presence into a set of behaviors. It's not something you're born with or not. It's something we can control. So what are these 9 behaviors, which he calls dimensions? So there are 3 sets of these behaviors, or 3 groups. 1 through 3, which are in red, are our personal qualities. So these are behaviors that have to do with with us personally. 4 through 6, these are the messages we send to others, and 7 through 9 have to do with our relationships. So that first group in the red is all about us. The dimensions in this group are seen as personal qualities of character internal to the person being evaluated. Behaviors consistent with passion express motivation, energy, and commitment. They fuel the focus and drive that show people we are committed to what we are saying and doing. Behaviors consistent with poise express assurance and composure. They show others we are comfortable in our surroundings and able to handle diversity. Behaviors consistent with self-confidence show a balance of optimism, realism, and self-assurance. They convince others we have the required strength, resources, flexibility, and resolve to initiate and to lead. Those are the 3 we're going to be focusing on as we go forward, but let me just go through the second and third groups. The second group, if you remember, is about the messaging. Behaviors consistent with candor show an interest in truth and honesty, a willingness to accept and engage with the world as it is, especially when it's not as we would like it to be. Behaviors consistent with clarity demonstrate our ability to create a story and to tell it in an intuitively clear and compelling way. They engage the audience both cognitively and emotionally. Behaviors consistent with openness show a willingness to consider other points of view without prejudging them. They are focused on the strength and logic of what's being said, not who said it. And last group, the one about relationships, is thoughtfulness. Behaviors consistent with thoughtfulness show an interest in others and the relationships we have with them. They show that we are interested in helping others, that we are prepared when we engage, and that we see more than our own agenda. Behaviors consistent with sincerity show that we truly believe in and mean what we say. They illustrate walking the talk and are seen as a matter of character. And lastly, the behaviors consistent with warmth show that we're accessible to others physically and emotionally. They show others that we see them as more than the roles they play and that we want them to feel welcome and comfortable. So that's an overview of those 9 behaviors. And for the purpose of this talk, we're going to focus on those 3 behaviors in red that have to do with passion, poise, and self-confidence. But before we dive deeper into these 3, consider this. This is a 30,000-foot view of of executive presence. And to quote Paul from the book, promotions and hiring into leadership positions are always positively influenced by executive presence behaviors. So you will notice on the x-axis are your job skills. The y-axis are your executive presence behaviors. So for those who have job skills but do not have executive presence behaviors, the career trajectory is limited. Obviously, the ideal path is that you've got a lot of job skills and you've got the executive presence behaviors. The overarching point of this is that job skills in today's market are not enough. It is not enough just to have the job skills as you are thinking about advancing in your career. So now let's get back to those personal behaviors. Passion, poise, and confidence are all reflected in how you dress. What you wear is an outward expression of your inner self and can significantly impact how you feel and carry yourself. Dressing in a way that aligns with your passions and personality not only boosts your confidence, but also enhances your overall poise. The philosophy ties into the idea that strategic style, to use university parlance, it's not an elective, it's a prerequisite when it comes to executive presence. It's about self-expression and empowerment. So this is strategic style. There's an exercise I do with clients, and I'm going to do this with you guys, and we're going to use the chat feature in Zoom. So this is my one-word exercise. Let's all of you imagine that you are walking into a room, you are in a business situation and you're walking into a room and it's 50 people. You know some of them, you don't know them, really doesn't matter. Let's say you don't know them. You haven't said a word, you've walked up on stage, and we all know that first impressions are formed in what, 3 to 5, 3 to 7 seconds. So you haven't said a word and you walk up on stage. Everyone in the audience has one word that they can use to describe your presence. And it's normally an adjective: powerful, knowledgeable, friendly, approachable, whatever it is. But they only have one word. So if you want, think about this for a second. Think about you walking into a room like this, and what is that one word that people would say about you that is solely based on how you're presenting yourself? Okay, looking at chat. Impactful. I see impactful, inviting, confident, friendly, warm, competent, unique. Honestly uncomfortable. Thanks, Adam. Transparent. No idea. Yep, I've heard that one before. So this is an exercise. It's a simple one, but it's a powerful reminder that perception is shaped quickly and it's most often visually. And it's important to align that with your intentions. And if you don't take charge of your presence, you're leaving a lot to chance. So if the one word isn't what you want it to be, or if you don't know what the one word is that you would like, it's likely because style and self-branding doesn't come naturally to you. And let me reassure everyone on this call, you're not alone. So style's easy, right? What's the problem? Why don't we just walk out into the street, see what everyone else is wearing, and wear that? Or walk into a store and see what's being marketed and buy what's in the store. What could possibly be the problem? So obviously it's not that easy, and we're all individuals, we all have different shapes, we all have different values, we come from different cultures, and we have different work requirements and different ways that we want to present ourselves. And we all have more than one brand depending on our audiences. You might have one brand for your board seat, you might have another brand for your working day to day. So all of this gets a little bit more complicated as you dig into the impact. So challenges to developing your brand. There are a lot of them. I put a few here that I hear from clients on a very, very regular basis. So let's go through a few of these. And then again, it'd be interesting to see in the chat what your challenges are. And Lori, if you want to interrupt me at any time and chime in, please do. So let's say the challenge is a lack of confidence. Building a personal brand and developing a unique style can be daunting. Ask friends for help. I have done this. Go to 3 friends who you trust and say, what are my best features? You know, is it my smile? Is it my height? Is it whatever it is? Try to try to find out from friends who will give you an honest answer what your best features are. If the challenge is time constraint, I do this one a lot with clients. Write a statement about what having a brand will do for you and what not having a brand doesn't do for you. In other words, what is the harm done if you don't put a strategy in place? That's often a really good motivator because you're looking at the ROI. Like, this is what happens if I have one, this is what happens if I don't. So let's say the challenge is uncertainty about the clothes. You're not sure what you own still looks good on you or is still in style. A simple tool is weed out what's damaged. And when I say damaged, I mean faded, stained, torn, has odors, anything like that. And buy some new pieces with the help of a personal shopper or a friend or someone that's in your price range. The challenge, fear of change. So we all resist change. It's natural and it can be daunting. This is a very personal thing when you're talking about how you show up and what you're wearing. So just trying little steps and going outside your comfort zone. For women, that can be adding color or jewelry. For men, it can also be color or a pocket square. You know, these are baby steps that you can take with advice that will not, terrify most people. And a main challenge for a lot of people is the money. And money is an issue for most people. Looking good does not have to break the bank. I work with clients that we are price agnostic. If they shop on Amazon, we try to help them find pieces at that price range. If they have things custom made, we try to work with them at that price range. So it's not that you have to spend X amount on your brand. It's that you have to be strategic about it and shop in your range. So with that, these are the obstacles, but I want to talk to you about a couple of success stories that I've worked with. And the first one is a Mitsubishi senior vice president, a client of mine. This is a great story. She was very successful very young, and she's a lawyer, and she's very dark hair and very stark, and she'd wear very dark suits. And she was always trying to impress everyone how competent she was, even though she was so young. She was always trying to say, hey, I'm here, I can do the job. Well, she gets to a very high position within the company before she got to SVP. And she looked down and her pain point was, okay, I'm near the top of my game. I don't know who I'm dressing like, and I'm wearing a whole bunch of black suits, and this is not my personality, and I'm stuck in this rut and I don't know what to do. She and I worked together for a matter of months. And when I said, and I can't share pictures of clients, but I wish I could demonstrate really fair skin, really dark hair, very kind of severe look. And I said, what is your personality? And she's like, I like Lily Pulitzer. I'm fun. I've got a fun personality. I don't bring my fun personality to work. And she thought she had to wear all these dark, stark colors and really impress upon everyone how serious she was. We worked together for several months and introduced tons of color into her wardrobe. And the end result, without going into too much detail, is and she and I are having lunch tomorrow. She wrote me and said, I walk into rooms differently. People react to me differently. I have different conversations. My team jokes with me about, oh, it's my favorite, color day or whatever it is. It has such a positive impact on how she reacts in the workplace and how people react to her. And she's just a totally different person. And I'd like to take credit for her getting the SVP role. Not sure I can take the credit, but that happened shortly thereafter. But it was a huge success story. The second success story is I work with a lot of people who are not from the US. They were brought into the US with a big corporate, multinational conglomerate, and they're in big roles. And their pain point is, for instance, this one particular client at Ingenico, she's in the US from Mexico, is in this great big role, and her one word is approachable. She's head of a massive HR department. She wants to be promotional. She wants to be approachable, and she also wants to be promotable. And what she was wearing, she felt when she came to me, was interrupting that message. And she's lovely and amazing and 5 feet nothing and really tall heels and really big flowery prints and things that she would wear in Mexico as a matter of, as a matter of habit that everyone does. And so it's not a matter of prescribing a different look, but it's a matter of taking someone's culture and values and finding that bridge that works with the corporate environment in which they find themselves. So we kept the color, we kept the bold, but we reduced the size of the prints and we modified it with some toned down jackets and suits. And she also got a very big promotion. But, the moral of the story is she feels so much more confident and she feels so much more approachable, which was her one word. And, excuse me, and just very happy. So these things are, the clothes of the tool, but going back to the 9 behaviors, it's really the confidence and the poise and all of that that's the real goal. So the takeaways are these, and they're very simple ones. If all of us need to remember that we have value, whether we are entrenched in a job and we're going to stay there for the next 10 years, or we're thinking about a move and we're terrified, or we're on the market because we've been let go, we all have value. That's the first thing to remember about branding, is that you are a brand and you have value. So never, ever be in doubt about that. If you are in doubt about that, you're at the right place, because Lori can coach you through that. So you've got value. Secondly, skills are not enough these days. Our online presence and in-person presence, they matter hugely. So I'll leave that point as it is. And executive presence are behaviors. It's a set of behaviors. It's not intrinsic to who you are. You weren't born with it. These are things that you can practice and implement. And if you implement them consistently, you will reap the benefits. So does anyone know Letitia Baldridge? Does anyone remember anyone? I mean, this is going way back. She was an American etiquette expert, public relations executive, and author, and most famous for serving as Jacqueline Kennedy's social secretary. So this is going way back. But your appearance and your dress are silent statements, often louder than anything you can say. And with that, I will say thank you very much, and happy to go into Q&A, or Lori, if you want to take over. Oh, you're on mute.
All right. I think everybody can unmute now. I had set it so everything was mute so no one could interrupt. But yeah, I definitely have a question. So when we talk about, and I'm looking at all of you guys on your virtual screens, and I will tell you, I think it is an interesting challenge to be virtually in charge of your presence, but it is also something that is extremely important and cannot be ignored or pretend that it's okay. One of the things, and Eileen, please chime in, and I want to hear from everyone else. I had posted this and I heard, it's important to make sure that you have the correct lighting. Absolutely. It is important that your camera is at eye level, that you stretch your arm and it is just about arm's length. Because I see a lot of folks on camera looking down. They're looking down into the camera, which is not a good angle. And it does not provide you the ability to really, again, sit square shoulders. And again, it's just like when you walk into a room and you sit down at a conference desk. If you are back in the office, it is extremely important not only to present, but also how you're holding and how you're carrying yourself as you are interviewing or talking or in a meeting. And I say this, and I say this because the clients that work with me know that I'm very direct, I'm very honest. I'm not going to try to hurt feelings, but at the same time, in this very competitive market, especially if you are coming into a position or interviewing in a position, there's an expectancy that you're bringing not only a wealth of experience based on your skill set and your accomplishments, but again, as we're presenting here, you also have an executive presence. I'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, ideas.
Mine are the groups.
Anyone's.
Yeah, so would I. Not me. I've been talking too much.
Okay, so hold
Unmute
on.
yourself and
Okay. Yeah, you should be able to, um,
oh, they can't. You have to unmute them. Or I do.
I did. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. So you all should be able to, unmute yourself. See if you are able to.
No, they're having trouble. Maybe we can use chat in the meantime.
Okay. See if that, okay. Hold on.
That worked, whatever it was.
Okay, perfect. Good, good, good.
That
Thank you.
works.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Georgia, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that we couldn't say anything. It was muted, but now I see the rest of the people are still muted. I'm able to unmute.
Some
Okay.
people can and some people can't.
Okay, hold on. I'm
So in the meantime, while Lori's figuring this out, does anyone have a question they either want to say out loud or put into chat? Let's use chat if you're still muted.
okay, hold on. Y'all keep chatting away. I'm gonna get this all fixed for us.
I'm going to
Crickets.
ask a question, Eileen.
Yeah, yeah.
When you, in the one overhead, you said, ask a friend what they see.
Laura, you just muted everyone.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. It's just not being nice to me today. Hold on. All right, go. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay. Georgia got muted. Do you have any recommendations or thoughts to make your office, apartment in my case, look more put together without using a Zoom background? It is a personal thing. Some people hate Zoom backgrounds. I just FYI, I used Canva and put a picture together with my logo
Okay, good.
and oh, good, with my logo and a QR code. So the Canva picture, you can choose it. It's better than a Zoom background, but Zoom backgrounds are so great because you don't want any distraction. If you don't like using a Zoom background, really good lighting, having your face very well lit and not having a lot going on in the back, like, a great big painting or plants or anything where someone's going to say, oh, that's an interesting plant, or I wonder who painted that picture, and it's going to distract from the message. Is everyone unmuted now? Can everyone speak?
Everybody
Yay.
can speak. Everybody can speak.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we
Any
can say-
colors? Great. Yeah, Joe, go for it.
No, I didn't have anything. I'm agreeing with everything right now. I just put in the chat that I often say to people to use an ironing board if they have to present, because your voice will be clearer.
Using
Stand up,
ironing
you know.
board? Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
you put
oh,
your
yeah.
put your laptop on an ironing board so that you stand, because some people's voice kind of gets
Yes.
trapped.
Yes.
And if you have to do something important or you have an important interview, but
I
you
totally
mustn't
agree.
fidget, you know. But there are.
And I'm doing this now. When I sit down, I see people on Zoom, and when they're sitting down, they're kind of leaning back and slouching in the chair and having this casual conversation. I never lean up against the chair. I'm always like sitting forward. You know, it's just communication 101. Okay, is voice important to brand? Are voice lessons advantageous? Joe is nodding. I'm nodding. Yes. And Joe, you've got some background noise, so if you will go on mute.
Oh, sorry, I will go on mute. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, voice is, and there are communication coaches. If you are in the States and you'd like recommendations, I can give you some. So I'm going to read chat because I don't see a lot of people raising their hands or wanting to talk, so that's fine. But I'm just letting you know.
I have a question.
Oh,
Any colors you recommend for Zoom interviews? Any colors that you recommend for Zoom interviews?
I recommend knowing your colors, because there's not one prescriptive color for everyone. And there's something, I forget where, this is not original to me, but there's something I read somewhere that is color, texture, and layers. That's what you want. And for women, you know, jewelry on top of that. But I'm looking at Joe. She's got layers on, and, you know, it's contrasting colors. Looking at Lori, you've got the accessories and the color. So I had a jacket on and I took it off. Typically speaking, what I find on Zoom is when I wear blouses and they've got a V-neck and the camera is like this, sometimes you don't see a lot of the blouse. So I'm feeling kind of like exposed. So I tend to want to wear more up top so that you can see more color and more layers and more interest. Yes, Joe. Nope. Can you unmute Joe, Lori?
Everybody is able to be unmuted. Everybody is free to unmute themselves.
Joe, you're going to have to type. I don't know why she can't unmute herself. And Julie can't either.
All right, hold on. All right, I'm going to do this again and then do this again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I
yes.
can.
Okay, great. I think whatever you did worked. I was going to say, what's the best way to get your colors done? Is it with a personal shopper or is it through a color expert?
Color expert. Color expert. There are a couple of sources that I'm not going to try to find right now that I can make available to the group. It's not Color Me Beautiful, but it's
something
I really
like that.
can't.
There is
Something
a
like
Color
that.
There is a Color Me Beautiful.
Right, but the one I'm thinking of has agents kind of all over the U.S. And Joe, I'm going to have to figure out if it's beyond the U.S.
Yeah.
And you can contact them. It's a 2 to 3 hour event, and you walk away with pictures of the colors, and some of them even give you a fan wheel of colors so that you literally can have it in your pocket. And when you go shopping, and personally, I can say from experience, I'm demonstrating it today. I'm in autumn in that old-fashioned Color Me Beautiful scope. I look better in autumn colors, browns and oranges and yellows and that kind of thing. I now can walk into a store just from having my colors done, and I can not even go to 80% of the store, and I can focus in on my colors, and it saves a lot of time and frankly money. So yes, I've got some resources, Joe, that we will make sure that we send out.
I know that I've never had my colors done, but I have used a personal shopper, and they have persuaded me to to buy a piece that you think I would never be seen dead in that, and you put it on and something incredible happens, and then and so I would thoroughly recommend it. And I think in the workplace you just have to stand out.
You do. I think you're right.
You really
And
have to stand.
so interestingly, and I'm going to tie into Joe's point, especially as we get older and more successful and we're on bigger and bigger stages, God forbid we deign to be over 25. The older you get, the more important it is to stay relevant. And this is a lever you can use. It's not about looking 25. It's not about looking like someone else, but it's about staying relevant as you are staying and succeeding in the workplace. And it's exactly that. It's about standing out. So I couldn't agree with you more.
I love what you say about being relevant. I think
Yeah.
because there's so much pressure to,
Yeah.
in depending, your example of the lawyer, how you conform, how do you marry the two, things. I think it's really, really true. Really interesting.
Yep.
There's as an alternative as well, there are a lot of websites and apps now where you can actually just upload a photo of yourself, and they will look at the contrast, your cool, warm, all of that, and give you kind of that same thing, Eileen, like a palette that you can use. Made it very obvious to me that I can't wear black anymore. Because it's so overpowering for my relatively soft coloring. But it took all of 10 minutes and it was mostly free. And I think that was also a really good, easy place to start if you're looking for some quick wins.
I'm so glad you said that. And the other thing that I'll say, I don't know if anyone uses Claude AI.
Yes.
Anyone use Claude?
Yes.
Claude's good at doing that too. You can upload 2 or 3 pictures of yourself and ask it those, simple questions like, what color should I be wearing?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit hit or miss, but frankly, if you don't know your colors at all, I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's a great way to start.
So Julie has a question. What are your thoughts about wearing dress pants, a button-down top, suit jacket with nice sneakers?
I love it. It depends on the audience. It depends on your brand. So I've got a client right now who wants Silicon Valley cool. She's San Francisco. She sits on a lot of boards. She is an advisor to a bunch of tech companies. So she needs to look one way when she's at these high-powered corporate boards. She needs to look another way when she's in Silicon Valley with these tech companies. And so the Silicon Valley cool, okay, that might not be this specific look, but tennis shoes and jacket and button down, that works for a lot of people. I'll tell you why it doesn't work for me, although I really wish it would. Again, I'm very tall. I have to really be careful about not wearing button downs. If I wear a men's button down and collar, I can't tell you how many people say yes, sir, to me. Valet, checkout people, they don't look up, they just see the height and they say, yes, sir. So again, going back to that elevator moment, I really try not to wear things that are going to allow people to, have any room for doubt. But yeah, I love that look for some people. And in fact, even the jackets with the sweatshirt inside, the sweatshirt dicky, and all of that can be really appropriate depending on your work environment.
So Shonda, I know I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. It's Shonda with a long A or a hard A. So she asks, I find it interesting from my corporate experience that folks are considered unpromotable if it's perceived that they don't have executive presence, while they haven't received candid feedback and may not have been taught about executive presence. Thoughts?
I think it's an evil trap. And this is why, no plug intended, but I'm giving it anyway. This is why executive coaching is, I think, really important. I'm a coach. Laura, I've got my own niche. Lori's a coach. Joe, I mean, there's lots of people in this business, and yeah, it's unfair. It's an unfair thing that people aren't given these kind of tools, but getting some coaching. And there's even, cohorts and groups you can join where you can find out this stuff. But yeah, if I'm thinking big corporate and someone in HR kind of standing over you and pointing down and saying, you don't have it, my son, that's just, you're set up for failure. but there are resources available for you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Eileen. And Sue, if can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. And also the frustrating thing about that, and I've done work in the people space, HR, different functions. And so being in the room and at the table where these discussions are being had, but then the feedback back to the candidate or the individual doesn't necessarily translate or maybe get communicated in a way that is reflective of whatever that perception is. So the person cannot make the necessary adjustments and changes if folks aren't, truthful and really giving that candid feedback.
Well, it's apropos because I talked to a potential client who is a high-level exec at Norfolk Southern last week, and she had approached me, and she and I talked about image, and then halfway through the conversation, she said, I'm not really sure if I need executive coaching around executive presence or if I need image coaching. And I was like, well, they're not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. And it was like opening up a door for her. She was like, oh, but to your point, she has the resources. She's used coaching before. She's got massive resources to put to this, where a lot of people don't know about coaching, don't know what it can do for them, don't understand executive presence, and it feels kind of rigged. So I hear you.
Most people can't
Okay, but
even
thanks for
find
that.
executive presence. So I know at my prior company, we would hear that, right? You'd hear it circulating. They don't have but what does that mean? So
Right.
it's nice to know there's a book, there's consultants, there's coaches. Let's figure it out.
So this book that I had in the presentation, I cannot tell you, I'm going to be mentoring a group there's an organization in town called Onboard. Onboard Now, I believe is the website, but it's helping women get corporate board seats. And they're tracking companies in the US that have 3 or more women on their boards, because there's an ROI when you get a diversity that starts at 3. So there's a group, Onboard Ignite, and they're bringing me in as a mentor for this group who are kind of mid to high level stage career and thinking about a board seat. And I'm using this book as my curriculum, because it's 150 pages. It's such a great read, and it's such a quick, like, oh, I got it. These are behaviors under my control. This isn't like someone's gonna like haughtily judge me from afar. I can do these things. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, Joe's gonna have trouble unmuting herself again. Lori, we need help.
She should
Joe
be able, I
Moss.
mean, just unmute yourself. I have not.
She can't. You're gonna have to do your magic
Oh,
again.
Lord have mercy. It keeps going back and forth.
Oh, here we
There
go.
you go,
Here we
Joe.
go. It's the magic thing of, because I've got background noise, so I keep muting myself. I just want to share a wonderful, you mentioned culture and corporate. I used to work for a big American investment bank, and we had a summer training program in New York. It was about 1 million degrees in New York, and all the European women did not wear, as I would call it, pantyhose. And one day we were all hauled in front of, HR, who said, ladies, this is setting a very, very bad example. Women in executive positions have to wear pantyhose, the dreaded American tan. And it was really interesting because as a group of Europeans, we said, well, in Europe, that is not the case. If you look good and you dress professionally, the fact that it's 1,000 degrees outside, you will be forgiven not to be wearing pantyhose. But it's a great example of the point that you both made before about culture and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in different places. And it was, and I think if we hadn't responded as a group, the outcome might have been different. But it was, and that was a long time ago. But I wonder if that's still the case today.
It is. So I used to call on hospitals and health systems. I was an account executive. And so I spent a lot of time in the CEO's conference room meeting with different individuals from the C-suite. and then other stakeholders that were a part of these decision makers. And I can tell you that up until a year and a half to 2 years ago, the men were expected to be in full suits, suit and tie, regardless of what the temperature was outside. It was very conservative. Women likewise, suits, and I do mean, skirt jacket suits or
Yeah.
pant jacket suits. If they did wear a skirt, they were required to wear it was an unwritten. So
Yeah.
I showed up knowing that I was showing up in the presence of my audience, and I dressed accordingly.
Yeah.
And so I always had, and I made sure that I had a very professional dress. And I guess too, it's part of your research. When you are researching companies that you're interviewing for and you are finding others that are working there, it is a good question to ask in those kind of get to know you relationship building types of networking. You can very quickly see what are others dressing like. Is it appropriate? Because folks in the IT world may be dressing a little bit different than those that are customer facing, whether they're account managers, account executives. Again, it's just it is a part of the research and a part of what you bring to that table that you're wanting to be a part of and you are interviewing with. A lot of my folks are also having to come back into the office, and they are a part of their interview is they may do virtual interviews and then actually do an interview on site. So again, make sure you're asking the questions because
And also,
go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to add to that. Sorry to interrupt. That when in doubt, dress up and not down. You're never going to be dinged for being a little bit overdressed, but you will be dinged for being under. So let's say if you're on the job market, I'd always go one level up. Do the interview, do the research, find out how people dress, and I'd always go one level up because you can't go wrong.
Interestingly, I had a chemistry meeting with somebody the other day who was a job seeker, and the headhunter had asked me to work with this guy. And he came onto a virtual meeting looking unshaven and in just a t-shirt and a hoodie. And the headhunter had really reacted to it. So I knew that there was probably a strong chance he was going to appear in that way. And it was really interesting because I'd been alerted to it, to what my reaction was when I saw him like that. Yeah, so I think you're so right, Eileen.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. What are your guys' thoughts about women wearing sleeveless, like a shell? Sometimes you wear a jacket, menopause, take it off, and then you have a shell on, and I've heard both. Oh my God, never do that. And then who cares if you're hot, take your jacket off. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm interested to hear what the group thinks before I say anything. Anyone?
I can tell you where I worked for almost 15 years, it was not necessarily appropriate, even in the conference rooms and even when it was 100 degrees in Texas weather. It was not acceptable. And again, I can hate it all I want, but again, it's how outside of my professional work world is different than when I present myself. And I will also challenge everyone here, irregardless of your particular place, whether you are currently working, if you are transitioning another position, I ask that you show up every day for yourself. Because I spent so many years remotely working, I was in a position where I traveled a lot. And so most of my days were spent at home here, but I always showed up. I was there present at 8 o'clock in the morning with makeup on, my hair was done, and I dressed accordingly because I never knew where my day would take me, whether I would be jumping on calls but no matter what, I dressed for myself. So I will ask each one of you, show up every day, number one, for you. And again, I'm not disrespecting anyone, but show up every single day of a work day, 8 o'clock until 8 a.m., whatever your work day is, even if you're a job seeker, dress for the position you want to be. It brings a different sense of confidence, a different productivity level when you are dressed as if you were going into your job, going into your work. That's just the challenge that I have for each of you. And you can provide thoughts on that as well.
I think shells, I mean, again, it depends on your brand, right? It depends on your audience. It depends on your work environment. And to Paul Aldo's point, going back to the book, these rules used to be universal. They're now company specific. So, you know, and to that point, location specific. Any other questions? People need to jump.
Yep.
Bye, Kristen.
Bye, Mary Beth. Bye, Kristen. Bye, Joe. If they haven't already been there. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, feedback?
This is Shonda. I wanted to add, Lori, to what you were stating. I feel like post-COVID, just generally speaking, how we show up, and I'm just, again, generalizing, it's more of a lax mindset, like kind of anything goes, kind of boundaries have been blurred a little bit because of the opportunities we have to work remotely. And for me, I am in sync with everything that you were stating, showing up. Like I would, you know, still get up and put on makeup because I'm presenting myself how I want to be perceived. It's about me and not folks necessarily reaction and, you know, feedback, but it's okay. How do I want to present myself to the world? And also there's something about how we dress. It has a level of confidence. It impacts how we perform. It's just so many different benefits that are tied to the decision to dress in a way that exudes confidence and leadership and warmth and all these different things. So, and I shared a quote earlier, like one of my favorite quotes is really being myself, like owning who I am. So be yourself because no one else, because everyone else is taken. Like I really live by that. So I bring my uniqueness, my personality into how I dress, but I do also adapt if I'm having an interview. I love colors as far as lipsticks and things of that sort, but I know if I'm on a, you know, in an interview, especially virtual, I'm gonna dial that down because I don't want to cause any distractions and also like patterns. So today I have on patterns, but depending on if I'm presenting, I would wear something that's more solid. Again, the goal is to focus on the presenter and not be distracted by accessories and everything that they're wearing. So I just appreciate both of you, Lori and Eileen, for holding this session. It's really impactful and very timely. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Eileen. I've got to jump too.
Absolutely. Thank everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thanks all.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lori, do you want to stay on?
Yep, absolutely. I think that is, hold on.
We've got one more. Holly Connor. Hi, Holly Connor. She's on mute. And
She probably stepped away from her computer. Let me see. Hold on.
can we boot her?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Remove, yes. Okay, there we go. No, just
How'd it go?
I think it went what? I think it went well.
Have you stopped recording?